to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck B. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power! Fight the power!
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting. A movement of people, it's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the prisons is. I was told good light is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. With you and God in time, I best align.
Shine, flies, no.
You are listening to and streaming a More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and White House correspondent, joining you live from LA. In afternoon drive time. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, DRNIIQ, and there I am, fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. And there we are for your listening pleasure. Let me just also say, well, since we're talking about KBLA offerings, we are officially launching a robust KBLA Health and Wellness Hub today. And so we want to encourage everybody to go to the KBLA 1580 website, KBLA1580.com website. Go to the website this evening, check it out, navigate it. And you can use the KBLA app open mic feature to tell me what you think. What do you think about it? Later this week, we'll have one of our KBLA team members on with us to talk a little bit more about that app and the resources that we're creating for the community. And so stay tuned for more on that. But last but not least, subscribe to a More Perfect Union podcast, and that way you'll never, ever miss an episode. Now, there is so much happening around the world, but first we want to offer you all sort of a call to action. There are a few call to actions that I want to offer. Number one, if you're going to be in New Jersey on September 11th, I want to see you. Okay? Consider this your invitation to the Black Men Vote New Jersey Town Hall. It's happening at Keene University, which is right there in, I believe, Union, New Jersey. It's the North Avenue Academic Building Auditorium on the campus of Keene University on Thursday, September 11th from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. And so if you go to Black Men Vote, if you go online to Black Men Vote, you can register right there. And I want to see you. We got a lot to talk about. There's a lot worth talking about. There's a lot about this democracy that is still worth defending. And with that, it's time for your National News Roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. And kicking us off, Republican senators are investigating the Palisades fire response. Y'all hear about this? The New York Times is reporting that 2 Republican senators announced an investigation today into the response to the Palisades fire in Los Angeles, saying that the state and local governments, which are led by Democrats, were to blame for the disaster. Senators Rick Scott of Florida And Ron Johnson of Wisconsin said that their investigation would examine why the area's main reservoir was empty before the fires began and whether preparation for the emergency was sufficient. At least 31 people died in the wind-driven wildfires that swept through Southern California in early January. 12 of them died in the Palisades fire, which was centered in the affluent Pacific Palisades community. We all know about that. 19 people died in the Eaton fire, which of course erupted hours afterwards in Altadena. So worth noting, according to the New York Times, the congressional investigation could focus on the actions of Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Bass of Los Angeles at a critical moment in their political careers. Governor Newsom is a potential Democratic presidential candidate who's leading a campaign to combat Republican gerrymandering in Texas, while Mayor Bass is running for re-election as mayor next year. And so hard to not say that is politically motivated. It's interesting that their investigation will focus on the Palisades fire. Doesn't seem that there will be any focus on the Altadena community, but we're going to keep our eye on this. You know, we have James Farr, the host of Conversations Live, Altadena Rising. It's the show of record right here on KBLA. He is on top of news like this, keeping folks honest as the people of Altadena work so hard to recover from the devastation. But that is the latest related to wildfire news. But in other news, but still staying on Capitol Hill, Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released a sexually suggestive letter to Jeffrey Epstein, purportedly signed by President Trump, which he has denied. The Associated Press is reporting that Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released this sexually suggestive letter to Jeffrey Epstein, purportedly, again, signed by President Trump. The letter was included as a part of a 50th birthday album compiled in 2003 for Epstein, a wealthy and well-connected financier who was once a friend of Trump. Epstein killed himself in a Manhattan jail while awaiting trial in 2019 on charges that said he sexually abused and trafficked dozens of underage girls. Trump has said that he didn't write the letter or create the drawing of a curvaceous woman that surrounds the letter. And he filed a $10 billion lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal for earlier reporting on his link to the letter. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Taylor Budwick posted various pictures on X of Trump's signature over the years and wrote, "It's not his signature." Of course, the release of the drawings come as the president has for months faced increasing pressure to force more disclosure in the case of Epstein and his former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. Epstein was accused of paying underage girls hundreds of dollars in cash for massages and then molesting them, all while Maxwell was convicted of luring teenage girls to be sexually abused by him. So this Jeffrey Epstein news, not going away anytime soon. In fact, it is just beginning to ratchet up. I was just talking about the mayor a moment ago, but in other news related to the mayor, Mayor Bass of Los Angeles has responded to the Supreme Court decision saying, and this was on immigration, saying, quotes, "I want the entire nation to hear me when I say this isn't just an attack on the people of Los Angeles. This is an attack on every person in every city in this country. Today's ruling is not only dangerous, it's un-American and threatens the fabric of freedom, personal freedom in the United States of America. Today, in the highest court in the country, ruled that the White House and masked federal agents can racially profile Angelenos with no due process, snatch them off the street with no evidence or warrant, and take them away with no explanation. This decision will lead to more working families being torn apart and fear of the very institutions meant to protect, not persecute our people. Mayor Bass said, let me be clear, we will not allow the White House nor the Supreme Court to divide us. And to all Angelenos, I'll never stop fighting for your rights, your dignity, your safety, and the administration's efforts to threaten them. We will stand united. When we come forward, I'm delighted to welcome back to the show More Perfect Union contributor and immigration law expert Alan Orr to help us unpack the decision from the U.S. Supreme Court and more. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
The following is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways with the purpose of soliciting sales of vacation ownership. For complete details, please visit fvgradio.com. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and get a complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431, and give us your answer. The proceeding is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways and not sponsored by this program or its affiliates.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. Let's preserve Black land stories before they're lost forever. I want to personally invite you to be a part of something historic. As journalist in residence for the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, I've joined forces with powerhouse attorney and social justice champion George Fothery, the man who helped make history by delivering justice to the Bruce family in Manhattan Beach, securing the first known return of land unjustly taken from Black owners by a local government. That victory was monumental, but it was just the beginning. For generations, Black families have acquired land through grit, faith, and determination, only to lose it through violence, legal loopholes, forced sales, and systematic racism. What's been taken goes far beyond dirt and deeds. It's the erasure of wealth, identity, and legacy. That's why we've launched the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, a national effort to collect, protect, and preserve the stories of Black land lost before they're buried, forgotten, or erased altogether. Because there's power in telling Black stories, there is resistance in remembering, and there's justice in being seen and heard. This is where you come in. We're inviting you to be a part of this historic Black narrative archive. If you or someone you know has experienced land loss, displacement, or forced property sales, your story deserves to be heard and remembered. Your story belongs in this archive. Your truth matters not just to your family, but to our collective future. Visit blacklandlost.org today. Fill out our simple intake form and add your voice to the National Archive of Remembrance, Resilience, and Reckoning. Let's make these stories live on, not in whispers, but on the record. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
Hit me! National News, The Consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and he is Alan Orr Esquire. He is the founder of Orr Immigration Law. He is also a More Perfect Union contributor on all matters related to immigration law. We're so grateful that you are spending your time yet again with us. Welcome, Alan.
Happy to be here on this important day.
Yes. And so, let's jump into it. The Supreme Court has lifted limits on these immigration raids in the Los Angeles area. I can feel the shock waves here in LA. And for folks who are less familiar, you should know that a divided Supreme Court today lifted a ruling by a lower court judge who placed limits on immigration raids in the LA area after finding that federal agents were indiscriminately targeting people based on race and other factors. And so, Alan, if I'm getting this right, the same Supreme Court that said that race shouldn't be considered as a factor in admissions when it came to the Harvard case are now saying that race can be considered as a factor when it comes to these indiscriminate arrests by federal agents?
That's exactly what they're saying. And I think, procedurally, we should sort of discuss what happened, because I think procedurally, lower courts generally are the finders of fact because they're closer to what happens. And then the Supreme Court and appellate courts generally look at the law and say, okay, you found whatever happened. It's probably that case. So let's apply these facts to the law and see what we get. So this lower court did an investigation, had a case, right? And they took in the facts and they decided that discrimination was happening. Then the Supreme Court today, on appeal by the White House, right? Without having any type of hearing, without having any type of trial, only reading the briefs of the lower court, made an opposite decision. Not just opposite to what the lower court said, but opposite to everything that has ever happened under the Constitution with regards to how we discriminate, even the cases that you spoke to about race in college. So it is indigestible for me at this point to not be furious with what's going on. They didn't end the case, right? The case continues and it will get to the Supreme Court at some time, but it doesn't fix the people who are harmed while the case is getting there. As you saw today, I stepped up the pressure to start doing immigration enforcement acts already in the LA area after they said they had the approval of the court. And so what does this mean? This means basically, if you're Latino and you speak Spanish and you just happen to be in a blue collar job, you're now a suspect. You need to prove to me that you're not here undocumented for me to let you go. Other than the opposite way around of saying, unless I have suspicion, I'm not going to disrupt this person's life. And the ruling only impacts Black, brown people, foreign-speaking people. There are tons of people in this country, especially in California and Florida, who their first language is Spanish. We can talk about whether you think that's okay or not. That's fine. Who cares? It's America. They were born here. Their parents speak Spanish. They speak Spanish. You don't get to determine that they're not a citizen because Spanish is their first language, right? And so much of this has been juxtaposed recently to Ronald Reagan's final speech, because if people remember Ronald Reagan, the last thing he said was, this is the only place in the world that you can come and actually be considered an American no matter where you're from. You can go to any other country and you'll never be able to integrate into that country. But here, this is where you sort of become the thing, the American thing, the sort of pot, and that's the recognition. And this breaks down all of that because now you are suspect. And as we have seen in DC, it doesn't just make those individual suspects, it makes everybody stop and frisk because you look this way, or you're in this neighborhood, or you're in this situation. And so that becomes preemptive to say, now we can carry this through. Kavanaugh, in his concurring opinion, sort of laid the hand to show you the racism that was dealt to say, oh my God, why not? Why would we not do these things that were clearly in this about? Because of the Constitution. That is why we wouldn't do it. Because of the Constitution. Every constitutional case I studied in law school said you cannot go in a room and assume that someone is guilty by the way they're dressed, the way they look, where they're standing, all those things. Those are not enforceable actions. Those are biases that you have brought to the table from your background, your experience, what you saw on TV, what you think criminals should look like, and what you actually think is criminal. So you're going to see a lot of rounding up now in California. So what do we do about it in the meantime? This is what we do about it, because I think it's important not to just say what the situation is, but where we should go. We should record every action that's in our presence where this goes down. If you are an American and you see it happen to someone else, record it, share it, so that people can see it, make a record of it. So when that case comes before the Supreme Court, we can prove that they did it wrong, and we can show that there was no reason for them to think to stop these individuals as to where they stopped them. In addition to just sort of recording it and repeating over and over again and sort of that recording, is you should know your rights and make sure they know their rights. So that if people aren't congregating in a large group, or they're not at the Wendy's or in the parking lot, then you'd have to ask yourself, then what other factors did they have behind someone speaking Spanish or Latino, which the Supreme Court said isn't in itself alone a reason to stop somebody to sort of watch for. So all those factors sort of help. But in addition to that, people in other states, all of those people who, the South Koreans that for Donald Trump, 64% of those in Atlanta, all of the Latinos that were for Trump, now is the time to stand up and start calling your congressional person to say, I don't want this to happen. Because if the courts won't hold, and right now Congress just does not exist, right? It has been feckless for a long time. Then this president will do everything he can to try to run up the numbers. And when you are inappropriately arrested and you're a United States citizen and you have someone who's recorded what's happened to you, you don't let it run off your back like water. You find an attorney and you sue on every case. Even if it gets dismissed, you file complaints everywhere. You missed your job, civil complaints, legal complaints. You find someone who's going to prosecute that case, who is stopping you from doing those things. Aggravate them to death in court with saying, no, this was racist, this was prejudice, because at the end of the day, that's really what's going to stop them, is a number of lawsuits. Because you know what? That's also how the art of the deal from Trump himself. That's all he's ever done in his business career is file lawsuits.
Yeah. Alan, I can't help but think that this represents another major erosion of due process. You and I have talked about this ad nauseum, and we talk about it because it's so critically important. Due process is something that we all benefit from. We all benefit from. And the moment that one person's due process or one community's due process, becomes optional, all of our due process becomes optional. So talk to me about, the consequence of this decision from the Supreme Court when it comes to due process.
Well, I think we should reflect on the moment in which we sit, and we know it has eroded, period, right? Let's start with that. It has eroded, period. We're at a place where the norms no longer apply, even to the three branches of government that I hold the highest and I hold a degree and learned for many years how one should behave. I am disappointed. The Supreme Court could have done nothing today and said, we'll let this stay. We'll take it up in June. They could have had a hearing the first thing in June. They could have changed their schedule, had a case, made a decision the same day. They could have tried to rule from the bench if they could, right? But this sort of dark court that is sort of making these decisions in a vacuum with no explanation, just saying this is what it is, isn't the way justice works. It's exactly like with the vaccinations. Nobody wants to look at the work anymore. Nobody wants to have the science of logic to say, this is how I reached this decision, and this is why it makes sense of the Constitution. They just say, basically, the president can do what he wants in that division of 6-3. So due process is very sick right now, and you may or may not get it within this administration, but you still file that lawsuit if you're inappropriately arrested. I mean, think about the Venezuelans on that boat who are now been charged with having drugs, and there's no evidence. There's nothing to be left to investigate. That is the story, right? I mean, that is the history of any marginalized group in this country. The victor or the oppressor tells the story of who and what your people are. And that's the problem we have right now. And so for everyone who sort of made this drumbeat that every undocumented person in this country, which apparently they say is around 12 million people, and there's 350 million people in this country. So if you think 12 million people are doing all the crime in this country, and in fact, picking groceries, working 3 jobs, then you definitely have a problem with logic, because that is nonsensical in every way. And if you think removing 1 million people is going to solve a situation for 10 million people, that's also nonsensical, right? No one in their life encounters immigrants on the street in their day-to-day, harassing them, killing them, arresting them, doing all these things that happen. Sure, there are people that are criminal that are immigrants, but by far they are less than native-born Americans. So the issue is the crime, not the nationality of the person doing the crime. That's the exact same logic they use with Black people over and over again. Black people commit these crimes at a higher rate than anyone else, when in fact that isn't true. When Black people also represent a small minority group within any population in all these jurisdictions. What about places where Black people are not and crime still exists? So the issue in the legal world right now is we have to fight these things in court, and there will be hearings. But as we discussed on the show before, the law lane and the court lane is a slow lane, and we don't reach justice quick.
And we don't. Look, Alan, there are leaders, learners, and listeners that are tapped in, and there are a number of folks that are listening to what we're saying, and they're saying, well, wait a minute. I hear you on recording interactions that people have with law enforcement, but they want to know, are there any potential circumstances where they could be potentially harmed, where law enforcement may potentially use physical force when while they're trying to record, what guidance would you offer so that, people engage in their right to record without putting themselves in harm's way in about a minute and a half?
Yes. There's no way for me to tell you in those circumstances. We've already seen people do that. And the only way, if it's not recorded, then it doesn't happen. So that's the same thing that's happened to all these other deaths. You just have to record. Even in the attack, just record. As long as you are not interfering with their actual actions, you do not step between them. You don't put your hand out. You're just recording. You should not have a problem with the law, specifically in the state of California. So then if it turns into something else, then you have it on the record. You've already seen, I think it must have been in Philly, that someone was recording an officer trying to do something, and the officer sort of backed down once he realized he was on tape. And that's sort of what we need to have, is sort of this moment of shame.
Yeah, well, my goodness. I mean, the shame abounds. We need to make sure that that shame sticks and that there are consequences to that shame for sure. Look, we know that U.S. immigration officers are ramping up efforts, sweeps right here in Los Angeles, where we're broadcasting live today. We know that there are immigration crackdowns reportedly beginning in Illinois and Massachusetts. Just as folks thought maybe there was be a lull, maybe this president was going to back off. He's not backing off. Mm-hmm. He's not backing off. People need to know that, and it's part of the reason why there are a number of folks, including Ezra Klein over at the New York Times, is saying stop acting like this is normal. It's not. In fact, that was the headline of a op-ed that he published this weekend that's gone viral. When we come forward, I want to get Alan's reaction to that op-ed. There was a lot said. Dare I say, a lot of the quiet part out loud was said in that piece. The question is, are any Democrats listening? More with immigration law expert Alan Orr when we come forward. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
The audience is listening, thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Dorian Johnson, a key witness to the 2014 police shooting of a Black man, Michael Brown, in Ferguson, Missouri, has been shot and killed at age 33. Police say one person is in custody.
It was just a lot going on. It was a lot of screaming, also like arguing.
Johnson was walking with Brown the day he was fatally shot by Officer Darren Wilson. Former President Obama and rapper Kendrick Lamar are both Emmy winners this year. Obama earned his third Emmy for narrating Netflix's Our Oceans, while Lamar won for music direction on his Super Bowl 59 halftime show. It's Lamar's second Emmy, and he's also nominated again for Outstanding Live Variety Special. And a new study shows U.S. deaths from high blood pressure-related kidney disease have jumped nearly 50% in 25 years. Black Americans had the highest death rates, more than 3 times other groups, followed by Hispanics, with men also above average. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Sepulveda Pass on the 405 southbound, only the carpool lane remains open coming up on Skirball Center due to an ongoing investigation after an earlier fatal threat. Big delays off of the 101. Sepulveda Boulevard, an alternate, is just absolutely jam-packed. That is not a good choice. Also heavier than usual is the 101 southbound in stretches all the way to the 170, 134 split. And even the 5 southbound looks a little heavier than usual as people seek an alternate to that 405 southbound. Unknown duration for only the carpool lane being open, according to the Highway Patrol.
Ignite your afternoons at Waba Grill's $5 happy hour with our 5-piece pork veggie dumplings and a value-sized premium beverage drink, like our tangy passion fruit lemonade. Enjoy $5 happy hour weekdays after 3 p.m. Only at Waba Grill.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The NFL will close the first week of the regular season with a diversity milestone that should go in the NFL record books. 16 of the 32 NFL teams had a black quarterback in their starting lineup. That's the highest number of black quarterbacks starting a season, number 1 on the depth chart.
One of those 16 is former USC quarterback Caleb Williams. You will see Williams leading the Chicago Bears against Minnesota in tonight's Monday Night Football game. The other 15, Spencer Rattler of New Orleans, Kyler Murray of Arizona, Dak Prescott of Dallas, Lamar Jackson of Baltimore, Patrick Mahomes of Kansas City, Jalen Hurts of Philadelphia, Geno Smith of the Las Vegas Raiders, Russell Wilson of the New York Giants, Justin Fields of the New York Jets, Michael Penix of Atlanta, Jordan Love of Green Bay, rookie Cam Ward of Tennessee, and Bryce Young of Carolina. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Come the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
If you're an African American mom who is pregnant or have a baby under 6 months old, you deserve care that lifts, listens, and lasts. Black Infant Health is for you. It's a free program with individual support, group sessions, and resources to start your mothering journey. BIH makes space for moms and their families to create community. Learn more about the programs in Los Angeles County. Check us out at blackinfanthealth.org.
Protect yourself from Medicare card scams. Scammers may call, email, or even knock on your door claiming they need your Medicare info, asking for money or threatening to cancel your benefits. Don't fall for it. It's a scam. Remember, Medicare doesn't need to verify your information. They already have it. Medicare won't charge you for a new card and will never threaten to cancel benefits. Check your Medicare statements for suspicious charges and report scams to the California Senior Medicare Patrol at 1-855-613-7080. We're here to help.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and you're listening to A More Perfect Union live in afternoon drive time. I'm joined with Alan Orr. He is the founder of Orr Immigration Law. He is also our resident immigration law expert. And on a day like this, where we get a wacky decision, my words, not his, a wacky decision from the U.S. Supreme Court. The Supreme Court that says that it's okay for federal law enforcement to consider race in these ICE raid roundups. Mm-hmm. We're talking about people's immigration status. Mm-hmm. We are assuming the worst of people, and it is getting really, really ugly. And there are some voices out there that are reminding us to stop acting like this thing is normal. I don't know about you, Alan, but it's troubling to me to see a number of elected officials in Washington and other parts of the country that are acting like we're going into a typical midterm election season where, the party that holds the White House will lose, at least on average X number of seats. Well, the president is sitting on nearly $1 billion in campaign funds to support Republicans to defend the House, defend the Senate. Do Democrats even have a plan?
Yeah. So I think, yes. So I think there are a lot of things that are troubling, and it's more than just that. I think there is a plethora of people saying the House is on fire, right? A plethora of people who say they're concerned and sit back and say this is wrong and that is wrong. And I will say that is great to know what the issue is, but what are you going to do about it, right? So sort of these sidelines of saying, most recently this critique of DC's mayor, Muriel Bowser, in a position where she has no power, no control, to say she could have done X, Y, and Z and fallen on a sword. She's a mother, single mother, and had the same result to make you feel better. But are you showing up for her? Are you in the street stepping out for her? Is the Congressional Black Caucus, have you got that email saying they're going to change what they're doing in a couple of weeks? Have you got the email saying it's going to be a protest march? Have you seen any of those things happening? Are people not going to work? So you're asking other people to do something that you're not willing to do because you're waiting on Superman to come and save you. And part of that was a simple thing to do in November, which was to show up and vote, right? So if we don't do the part where we vote or mobilize people to vote, then you get what you got, and this is what you got, because that's a simple thing that could have been avoided, right? Millions of us did not show up to vote. Black people did not take the time to go and vote, right? So that's inexcusable to say you need someone else to save you when you're not trying to save yourself. That's point number one. Point number two is it's easy to say what the problem is, but not work on the solution. So all these people who write all these articles saying, this is wrong, this is wrong, that's wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, that's wrong. Appreciate it. Thank you for journalism. It's a wonderful thing. But if you don't have a suggestion at the end because there is no resolution, then I welcome you to maybe write something different than to say it's on fire. And because the burden is too high right now, because what could those politicians do? What I will say has happened, which is important in the history of this country, is the people have to protest. It has to be visible and consistent. Serbia, where a student got hit by a car, has been protesting for almost 9 months. We don't cover the global news in our country because we think we are the world, but there are places where people protest, not on Monday through Sunday, but every day, and there still hasn't been that change because we are in a world where we believe in 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour, we're going to get a resolution. And if you look at the civil rights movement, it wasn't on Monday they went to court and Tuesday they got it resolved and everything was fine by Thursday. It took a long history. And that's why I say Charles Hamilton Houston, who was the founder of Howard Law and worked behind all the cases that got to Thurgood Marshall to get into court. What he did was he went and he filmed all of the disparity between the schools. That's why I'm saying record this, because you need the evidence to make the case. I don't think it is crazy to me to ask of Democrats who did not have the skill last time to figure out something different this time. They're not going to save us. And I have respect for Ken Martin as a person, but what the DNC is, where is the DNC overall? So at this point, I don't know if Democrat is the word to sort of say they're going to come back and save us from anything. I would love for us to have a drumbeat about it, but the strategy that we need does not produce the leaders that we need. I mean, we see it over and over again in the last administration, and the last attorney general. A lot of things could have been done that would have prevented this from happening if you would have just done your job in a more eventful way and not saying, "Oh, I'll let the American people sort of solve it." Because we're not seeing the same thing from the Trump administration. The Trump administration has basically rewritten the Bill of Rights and the Constitution in 9 months. And the Supreme Court is saying, whatever you want, sir. And Congress is saying, whatever you want, sir. So in this moment for our solutions is activism from the people to have that voice to say, I'm going to contact Congress every day about these issues, right? So that they know that they're not going to win the midterms, we're going to go back and sort of enforce these things. So part of what I'm saying is, sure, we need Democratic leaders to be better. We need Jeffries and everybody to sort of get a new sort of tone and a step with regards to how they're going to deal with things. Maybe we need to shut the government down, right? If the government's not working, shut it down.
And that actually brings me to my next point. You know, Ezra Klein and his op-ed piece that everybody's talking about, entitled "Stop Acting Like This Is Normal." He's essentially, making the case for Democrats shutting down the government, really saying this may be the last bit of leverage that Democrats have over Republicans, being that Republicans would need at least 60 votes in the U.S. Senate in order to fund the government, in order to pass a continuing resolution. We know that Chuck Schumer was reluctant to do so. There were a number of Democrats in the Senate that were reluctant to do so. And America's paying a big price for it. Do you think Democrats on Capitol Hill, do you think they will get out of their own way and decide differently this time? Should they get out of their own way and decide to shut government down to thwart the plans of this administration that are just ratcheting up?
So I think, yes, I think there are a lot of, so as a lawyer, I have to look at it from a legal perspective, because one of the concerns that Schumer had was that maybe it would give the presidency more power in that moment. But if you don't have the budget and things aren't working, then things weren't working before, it also allegedly gives sort of an out. But the question becomes more of the power of the vote, because as we know, right now they have the House, the Senate, and the Congress. You only need a few people in the Senate, so that's the last hope. So if you don't get those numbers in the House, right, you might not have the numbers. And I don't think they have the numbers for the budget without someone sort of crossing over in the House to start with, when you don't really even need the vote of someone who is not in their party. So I do think it's time to play hardball in such a way. And what difference does it make at this point where we see a president changing the budget by fiat and paper, and the court's not holding him accountable? If Congress writes the budget and the president decides not to fund it, what kind of power is that? Why are you even writing a budget in the first place? And that's part of the things that I would be pointing to, is saying, no, we'll just shut the government down. We're already going down the drain anyway. So let's see what happens.
So talk to us from an immigration perspective. If the Democrats decide at the end of this month to play hardball and to shut the government down, to not fund the government, how does that impact our immigration system? How does that impact these ICE raids as they're beginning to ratchet up across the country?
So there's emergency funding, and so it really depends on each way they sort of shut the government down. What will be funded, what will not be funded, and then essential staff. So one of the concerns last time from Schumer was, well, all of these government workers were going to lose their job. Well, we already saw 300 Black women fall out of this market, and many of them were government jobs. So if the other people lose their jobs, hey, and the essential employees are there, then you're looking at the wrong people. It's time for everybody to share some of this sort of concern about people not getting paid. The same thing was the concern about Social Security checks and VA welfare benefits sort of happening. But the essential part of government always remains open. It's just people who are at the lower realms are releasing it, causes more work. Government websites fall down. So that's a problem for us doing state processing, doing perm applications, blah, blah, blah. Visa applications are fee-based in this country. So, when I file a petition for someone, that should still continue to operate under the first level of shutdown. But I think the negotiation is going to change a little bit right now, because as we look at the stock market, we look at the unemployment rate, we look at inflation, signaling to the Republicans, hopefully to hear that they're ruining our economy. And this thing that just happened in Georgia with this plant where people had visas to be there and they shut it down, and it's going to hurt some 40,000 jobs in Georgia, is senseless to me to get a news story to say that you've done this big enforcement act when it wasn't even that. And hopefully they will all sue because they had visas to be here in the first place.
It's a tough road ahead. In our remaining minutes, Alan, I want to ask you, what are you hearing from folks seeking not just your services, but the services of other immigration attorneys right now? And, what is it that we, the people, need to know to keep us safe.
Right. So I think in the biblical sense, care for your neighbor if you can. Look out for people, because the Bible doesn't talk about visas with regards to Christianity and how you treat people. It doesn't say, let me see if you're this or that. Before, if all these bubble cross-wearing Bible carriers sort of do that, there are people in this country who are undocumented and have been here for a long time. That is not lawful. I'm a lawyer. It's not lawful. There's an equity conversation that could happen. Congress could pass a bill to resolve all of these issues. But instead, the White House is ending TPS programs, all these people who are doing essential work for us that we had during COVID, and not addressing the problem of immigration, which is the immigration law. So what we need to do is change the law, resolve the issue we have here, and then move forward. But we are now in a place where the glitter is out. This concept that you're going to put all the glitter back in, as soon as you sweep the floor, you're going to take that broom and put in the corner, and the glitter is going to be right back out there because it's in the bottom of the broom. This is the type of thing you just don't ever clean up. It's going to be there. So rather than say you're going to fix problem, like you have this crime you solved in DC, you can't solve for undocumented people in the United States until you solve for the problem, which is an immigration bill. So that is the problem. That is the focus. That is the work. People who are undocumented, do everything you can to be prepared if ICE shows up at your door or you are somehow detained or in deportation. Make arrangements at home, have your documents in order. If you're a citizen and you speak Spanish and you're Black, get your passport, get your real ID, have your birth certificate. If your mom has your birth certificate under the sofa, no ma'am, no more. These documents I need to have copies of to know where they are, because when you're stopped, that's going to be your first level. Sure, you can get yourself out of detention once it starts, but will that be 3 to 4 days later if they catch 100 people at one time? Right? Why do you even want to have that conversation? Yes, it's unlawful for them to do that thing. Yes, it's problematic, but I don't want you to have to go through it. So just show them your passport and keep it moving. And then vote in November so that we won't have to do this anymore.
Amen, amen, amen. Our thanks to Alan Orr, Esquire. He's founder of Orr Immigration Law. He is our resident immigration law expert. Always feel a little smarter every time you join us. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you for being with me.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, the quiet part out loud. And let me just say that this started this weekend. I was reading the LA Times and I saw an article that made me sit up. And I said, I got to share this with the people on Monday. I'll give you a hint. Spoiler alert. Kamala Harris, the former vice president, is involved. More when we come forward. You're listening to A More Perfect Union only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
During this time, it's important for everyone to know your rights. The 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments in the U.S. Constitution protects every one of us, regardless of immigration status. The 4th Amendment requires a judicial warrant to search your home. The 5th protects your right to remain silent. And the 6th gives you the right to an attorney. Just remember,
no warrant, no key, my privacy. You don't have to speak. No lawyer inside. Don't say a thing. Yeah, we all got rights.
Hey, we all got rights.
So many things, big and little, make you uniquely you. Your hobbies, dreams, career, family, and more. Addiction to drugs, including opioids and stimulants, can strip these away from you. Recover your life. Choose treatment for drug addiction and get back to what matters most. Find a provider and proven treatment option that's right for you at ChooseChangeCA.org. Recover you.
It's never too early to start talking about money in realistic ways with your kids. JP Morgan Chase navigates how to educate your kids now about creating long-lasting, healthy money habits. Whether your kids are in elementary school, high school, or college, now is a great time to start a conversation about ways to create healthy money habits as they grow, ultimately benefiting their financial future. Talking about money in a realistic way to support your kids' lifestyle and dreams, your first banking account geared towards high school or college. It's never too early. Explaining the basics, what you earn and what you spend, building financial confidence starts with getting organized. Learning and practicing vital money skills now will stay with them for life. Tools they will have to stay on top of their finances and achieve their goals. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. It's time for the quiet part out loud. We might even rename this segment today, Questions That Need Answers. You see, this weekend, the LA Times reported that the LAPD was ending protection of former Vice President Kamala Harris amid criticism over diverting cops. The LAPD on Saturday, they discontinued their protection for former Vice President Kamala Harris after heavy criticism within their own ranks that officers were being diverted from crime suppression. The LAPD Metropolitan Division officers had been assisting the California Highway Patrol in protecting VP Harris and were visible until Saturday morning outside her Brentwood home. Both California police agencies, they scrambled this week to protect former Vice President Harris after President Trump, her rival in the November election, as we all remember, he revoked her Secret Service protection last week. You know, the same Secret Service protection that President Biden had extended for Harris beyond the 6 months after leaving office that vice presidents traditionally get. Well, LA Mayor Karen Bass had directed the LAPD to provide the security team to assist the CHB in the short term. According to sources, those Metro officers had to be drawn away from crime suppression work in San Fernando Valley this week. Oh, really? The department is, quote, assisting the California Highway Patrol in providing protective services for the former vice president until an alternate plan is established. That's what Jennifer Forkish, an LA police comms director, that's what she said on Thursday. She said this temporary coordinated effort is in place to ensure there's no lapse in security. But you know what really got me going? What really got me going was a statement that I saw from the LA Police Protective League. I saw this from the LA Police Protective League, and I just thought, wow, this is cruel. Quotes, pulling police officers from protecting everyday Angelenos to protect a failed presidential candidate who also happens to be a multimillionaire and who can easily afford to pay for her own security is nuts. That's what the LA Police Protective League, the union that represents rank and file LAPD officers, that's what they said. That's their board of directors had to say. The statement continued and said that Mayor Karen Bass should tell Governor Newsom that if he wants to curry favor with Ms. Harris and her donor base, then he should open up his own wallet because LA taxpayers should not be footing the bill for this ridiculousness. Newsom, who was required to sign off on CHP protection, has not confirmed the arrangement with the LA Times, but what are we talking about? A former vice president, former U.S. Senator for California, former top cop, Attorney General of California. You can't provide temporary protection? They provide temporary protection to dignitaries all the time, many of which may be millionaires themselves. It's cruel. It's defiant. Last I checked, the LAPD reported to the mayor of Los Angeles, not the other way around. But is there an asterisk by that when we have certain mayors? Is there an asterisk by that when we have a black mayor? Is there an asterisk by that when we have a black former vice president? So this is an open invitation for the LA Police Protective League to join us here on air on A More Perfect Union to help make it make sense, because it doesn't. If the former vice president, if they're not willing to do everything they can to make the former vice president feel safe on a temporary basis, then why should any of us Angelinos, why should we feel any safer under the leadership of the LA police chief and rank and file officers across the city? Questions that need answers. And we're here for it. All week, we reached out. Give us a ring. Join us here on air. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Florida's plan to drop some school vaccine mandates is delayed 90 days and would only affect hepatitis B, chickenpox, hib influenza, and pneumococcal diseases.
This is an issue very clearly of parents' rights.
Black Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo admitted he announced the plan without data analysis. Other required vaccines like measles and polio remain in place, though lawmakers could expand the proposal. The Tony Award-winning Broadway show Cabaret at the Kit Kat Club will end early on September 21st after star Billy Porter has been diagnosed with sepsis. He's expected to make a full recovery. And thousands marched in Washington, D.C. over the weekend to protest